Good evening from New York. I'm Selwyn Collins, your host of CWS Journeys. The lovely lady next to me is Miss Karen Wharton. Karen has been a member of QCAANY since 1993. She has served on the executive committee in several different capacities on a variety of projects. Most recently, she helped organize the QC Summer Math Institute in 2016 and 2017, and the annual student conferences of 2014, 2015, and 2016. She also facilitated This Is Ours, a visual literacy initiative that engaged students from Bena Hill Institute in Northrop Anuni and Queens College in Georgetown, and resulted in the publishing of a book in 2015. Karen, welcome to CWS.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Good evening.
Good evening. Karen, how would you describe this woman we have come to know as Karen Wharton?
A work in progress, I suppose. Normal, passionate, caring, normal.
What are some of the things those close to you say to describe you sometimes that you agree with?
That I'm passionate about the things that I'm passionate about. That I'm a hard worker, particularly when it's something that I'm passionate about. I'm loving, caring, kind, feisty, mouthy, opinionated, strong opinions, sometimes a fighter.
Yeah.
I guess that's it in a nutshell.
You know, ever so often I hear this name comes up, Nabakalis, woman from Nabakalis. And those of us who are Guyanese, the listeners who are Guyanese, some of us know Nabakalis and where it is.
Mm-hmm.
But tell us about this little girl growing up in that Nabakalis. Let's say this 9-year-old growing up in Nabakalis. What was she like? What was that like for her?
Well, Nabakalis is about 17 miles outside of Georgetown on the east coast of Demerara.
Mm-hmm.
And I come from a very strong family with deep roots in Nabakalis, Victoria, Paradise. My Guyanese family is Jackman, and so we have a long history in the area. My mom is one of 9 or 10, I can never really remember. We're close knit, very much rooted in church, strong sense, values, strong values, emphasis on education, emphasis on community. And growing up in the family, I was the youngest of 4. My dad died when I was 15 months old, so he said, essentially, I don't know my dad. I know his relatives, and hence my relatives. So I grew up a baby, and my siblings would say a little bit spoiled, but I wasn't really spoiled. I wouldn't describe it as being spoiled. Because I was so young, and my mom was also young, so she was a widow at 34 with 4 kids. And essentially not essentially a baby. So I basically grew up tugging at her frock. Wherever she went, I was there, and that carries through until today. I started school much earlier than normal, in part because I needed to be babysat. And so I think that kind of put me on a good path that has carried me through. I was precocious, talkative, and loved to play, feisty again. And I have a sister who's 2 years older than I am, and we played a lot. We played school, and it was a very carefree life. There was a trench in front of our yard, and we were forbidden from swimming in the trench. We would play games to see whether one could accidentally throw the other into the trench.
Is there where this competitive spirit was born?
I don't know that. I won't quite describe myself as competitive, but okay. Yeah. And so I had a fun upbringing.
So take us to the 15-year-old Karen.
15. So I was 15, getting ready to. I took O levels when I was 15, and I came to the U.S. when I was 15. I did right after I took my last O level. What was I like? More of the same. Yeah, I was fairly athletic, very athletic at that point. I played hockey for Queen's College. I also played badminton. I was in every single club that there was. That existed at Queen's College. I played just about every sport that was offered. I wasn't particularly good at all of them, but I tried. And I tried everything that the school had to offer. And so at 15, after O levels, my family migrated to the U.S. and I came. I remember I had to bargain to remain to take my O levels. It meant a lot to me. So the rest, my mom and my other siblings, pretty much came over maybe March or thereabout, and I stayed behind. I wanted to see it through. So I stayed behind and I stayed with relatives in Sparanam, Plaisance, and then I came by myself right after the O levels, and I look back now and just wonder how was that possible that there it was I was going through immigration and I had this huge envelope with whatever you're supposed to have in an envelope when you're picking up your green card. And I did all of that by myself. I felt like a young adult. And then I arrived in New York. And
so when you first arrived here, was there a culture shock?
Well, my first impression when they picked me up from JFK and driving into Brooklyn, we drove down Linden Boulevard. And Linden Boulevard, as you know, is multi-lane. So I was fascinated by that, but I also came at the beginning of summer, and the grass was no longer green; it was pretty brown, and I felt a little disappointed that I was leaving my lush Guyana.
Hold on, Karen. I think this camera just hold on a second. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was leaving my lush green Guyana to come to to this what at the time felt like a concrete jungle. So my initial impressions weren't particularly great, but here I am.
Here you are.
Here I am.
Your mom, right? Widowed at 34, 4 children. How would you describe this woman that has had to had to find the strength to raise 4 children on her own? What kind of woman would you say she is?
Amazing, very amazing, tenacious, resourceful, determined, and she cared about her kids. And there was nothing and is nothing that my mom wouldn't do for her kids. Recently I found out, she actually told me that she never remarried because the thought of having someone come into the house and try to correct us or discipline her kids, she just couldn't bear.
And any words of wisdom that still resonate with you?
From my mom? So many.
Right.
There were so many lessons, unrelated or seemingly unrelated to her being a single mom. I remember when I was taking O levels. Of course, we didn't have money, so I told her that I wouldn't take French because I wasn't particularly good at French. And I didn't want her to waste her money. And she told me that that was not my concern. My concern was to go and do the best that I can do. And that is what I did. And all along, even to go to college where we had no money, none whatsoever, she basically would say, you know, your job is to get into the program.
Wow.
Your job is not to worry about how we're going to pay for this or how we're going to make it happen, because we'll never have that conversation unless you get in or you get there. So focus and get in there and then come back and talk.
You know, you are a mother yourself. Wonderful, amazing young lady. Very
Thank
talented
you.
and very brilliant.
Thank you.
And you're a proud mother. We all know this. Do you see yourself sharing with your daughter some of the lessons you've learned from your mother?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I do the same thing with her. She's getting ready to go to college, and of course, you know, colleges are unaffordable, pretty,
Right.
you know, basically. And so, of course, the finances is something that we talk about. I'm open about just about everything with her. But then I tell her, listen, it's not, you know, don't worry about how we're going to pay for it. You're not even there yet. You just get wherever you need to go and have them bill us, and then we'll take it from there. So I tell her, I share with her some of those lessons that I learned along the way.
You know, you are president of QC Alumni Association, New York chapter, first woman. We're going to get into that just now. But you have a passion for empowering young people. How much of being a mother, of seeing what the sacrifices your mother made, and how much of any of those, either of those, have shaped how you approach your endeavors to empower young people?
So interesting that you ask that, because you know, I was thinking about it, and it goes back years to when I was a kid. There were always teachers and adults around who took interest in me and guided me. I remember I was in like Little ABC when Selwyn Baird, this is before she became Minister of Education. I'm not sure what exactly she was doing, but she happened to visit my school and happened to visit my class. And for whatever reason, took an interest in me and would always talk to me and continued to do so, and throughout my life in Guyana until I left Guyana. And she always would try to encourage me academically. I found out later from her niece, Leonie Baird, that she would inquire, unbeknownst to me, about how well I was doing or not doing. So I think, so she was an influence. There were other teachers along the way who just by saying one thing, making a little, giving me some encouragement, really made a difference. And so I've always kind of tried to pay that back. I've been paying it back even in college. I was in an engineering program, and I was a member of the Minority Engineering Society and in Boston, and we volunteered to tutor some kids at Boston Latin Academy. So I raised my hand, I could do that. That we had to be there first thing in the morning, 7:30 or thereabout. And I hated it because, being in college and having to get up early, it's just not, wasn't something that I enjoyed. Anyway, since I'd signed up for it, I continued to do it. Long after, or after I'd graduated and everything, I was walking down the streets of Boston when a young man came up to me and said, "Hi, don't you remember me?" Of course, I do remember him, and then he identified himself and said, "I remember you used to come to my school and you taught us principles of engineering. And I want you to know that I'm now an engineering student
Wow.
at Boston College. And I was absolutely floored. I would have been like maybe 23 or 24. And to somehow he linked that experience with where he was at that point. I'm not saying that it was a one for one or anything like that, but somehow he saw my my involvement as somehow influencing him, because that's what essentially what he said. And to think that by merely showing up and doing my best, even as an undergrad, just doing whatever it is that was asked of me and spending time with the kids can encourage him to pursue higher education and to go to a school like Boston College, really took me back and made me realize that little things that we think are not meaningful can actually be quite meaningful to the recipient. And I've had several instances of those kinds of things happen.
Well, while you're on the topic, you mentioned your aunt. Who are some women that, when you were growing up, you looked up to and still respect to this day?
Of course, my mother, my grandmother, my aunts. My grandmother in particular was fierce. Yeah, my grandmother, she was blind as a bat in the end because she had cataract or something. But that never prevented her from like throwing a shoe at you and not missing.
Throwing a shoe?
Throwing a shoe. You mouth it off or whatever, the shoe would be her slipper, would be coming your way. So, and then I've been blessed with, along the way, a number of good friends, mentors, who've basically assisted me and encouraged me to whatever it is that I'm interested in doing. So, but my field is male dominated. So when it comes to people at work, it's largely male.
About a year ago, I think, or two. A year ago, you became the first female to be president of the Alumni Association, QC, Alumni Association. How significant was this for QC women, for Guyanese women actually, and what type of impact did it have on you?
I think that's the significance is probably better answered by someone else, because I'm in my skin,
right.
And I'm only doing what I can do, and for me, it's I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
Let me try this. Before this happened, years ago, as you were attending the meetings, has it ever crossed your mind that maybe one day it would be nice to see a woman at the head of this organization?
I cannot say that I did. I did not join the organization so that I can become president or so that I can be a member of the executive. I joined the organization because I believed in and I do still believe in its mission. I think that the organization would get the same amount out of me, regardless of what position I hold.
But not you, Karen, a woman.
And in terms of a woman, I mean, for me, Queen's College has been co-ed for over 40 years.
Right.
And so it's just a matter of time, really, because of demographics. Right now, the school is primarily female, so it was really a matter of time. But I know for some of the men, it was even more significant. Many of the alumni attended the school when it was all boys, so to see a girl or a woman at the head, to see a woman in Queens College is a big deal for some. And to have a woman be head of a chapter is probably an even bigger deal for some.
What were some of the reactions you got in the beginning? Let's take the men, and then let's take the women.
Well, the most striking one from a male was actually from an associate of mine, someone who actually went to school with me, who was a year ahead of me. I ran into him shortly thereafter, and we were chatting. He congratulated me, and then he leaned in and told me, "No, don't mess it up."
Wow.
And he said, "Don't mess it up." And I said, "Really? Did you tell any of the other guys not to mess it up? And if you didn't, why do you feel that you need to tell me not to mess it up?" But you know, when you step away from it, you know, I think part of that was probably his desire for me to succeed. And he might have been not as articulate as he could have been in the moment.
You're definitely a QC girl. So, about the women, what is
Yay!
one? Oh, wow, wow. When you first got in, when you first became president, did you have a particular vision for the chapter?
Well, I would say about 4 years ago, the organization started to transform under John Campbell, my predecessor. And so my immediate goal was to continue what he had started, and that's somewhat what I've been doing. This year, I just got reelected.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So going forward, we're basically going to build upon what John started. We're also going to we're planning to do a couple more things. We'd like to basically connect more with our community here in New York. Someone goes to Queens College for 7, 8 years, right, if you repeat, or less, and then lives to be 70 or 80 years old. So the vast majority of an alumnus's life is spent outside of Queens College. There are more of us who've graduated, who've gone on here, than at school. So what are we doing with for our alumni? And so one of the things that we're focusing on is building community within the alumni body, as well as making connections to the next level, the next circle. So our Guyanese community, or West Indian community, or American community. So one of the things we're going to do on December 9th, we're having what we're describing as a day of giving and a day of celebrating, a day of giving and celebrating. So that Saturday morning, we're encouraging our members and friends and supporters to meet with and volunteer at a food pantry in Richmond Hill. It's Calvary Mission Food Pantry. It's been around since 2000, and last year, I believe, they distributed about 3 million pounds of food. So this is an entity that is serving our community, our Guyanese community. And we're going to partner with them. Well, actually not quite partner, we're going to work for them for that day to give back to the community, to basically distribute hot meals and food and so on. And so then that evening we'll meet again to celebrate all that we've done, celebrate the year, and celebrate the fact that we're alive and it's Christmas. And we're going to do that at Guiding Light, again in Queens in Jamaica, Guiding Light Cocktail Lounge and Bar. And it's open to Queens College community, our friends, our supporters. Admission is free. We'll have a complimentary buffet up to 9 p.m.
Is
So
there
starts
is
at
there a
7.
place where people can see this information?
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
It should be on our website, www.qcguyana
Mhm.
alumny.org.
Mhm. Let me ask you this as you're talking about the community outreach and so on. This is quite a shift for the association.
Mm-hmm.
Um, w- how did members, or how are members reacting to this, seeing that it's kind of new? QC chapter was accustomed to doing parties, the different events for raising funds and sending it back to school. But there's been quite a shift. I mean, can you tell us? I know you're a little modest about this, Karen, but can you tell us some of the changes that have been implemented in the past 2 years? You said it started with John,
Mm-hmm.
your predecessor. Can you share with us some of these changes?
Sure. So the change, the community building change, it's a little bit bottoms up.
Mhm.
Our members, some of our members are extraordinarily passionate about this.
Mhm.
And people have come to me with ideas. Ideas good. We're going to do it. So some of the things we've done over the last couple of years, we've done the student conference. In fact, we're going back to Guyana in February 8th and 9th, for our fourth student conference. And for your viewers who may not be familiar with it, it's an opportunity. Basically, we organize a 2-day event at Queen's College for 200 students, about 50 or so from outside of Queen's College, and from other schools. We invite them. And the first day, we have workshops. We invite alumni and friends to speak with to the kids about primarily life skills, study skills, study habits, and so on, as well as a little bit career. But it's non-academic. Then on the second day, that morning, we have a social entrepreneurial activity. So kids are broken into groups, and they're asked to come to the session with a problem within their community and a solution for it. And then we try to work with them to build their solution. And hopefully they go back into their communities with a better formed idea and a plan, and are better able to implement. And then the second half of the second day, we have a career fair. And we invite businesses and entities in the Georgetown area to come in and speak to the kids about career options. It's not a job fair. It's an opportunity for kids to connect with professionals and to speak about other fields other than the traditional doctor and lawyer, even though we have some of those as well. So that's one thing we've done. And then the second, as you know, we've had this tremendously successful Math Institute. 2 weeks in the summer, we go to Guyana, and we have 2 weeks of math, non-traditional math, higher math. It's not lessons. And this is actually led by Dr. Terrence Blackman, and ably assisted by Cleveland Waddell. Cleveland is a doctoral candidate in North Carolina in math, also QC grad. So together they lead the students and try to interest them in math and mathematical principles. We also take a very holistic approach to it, and in addition to having classroom instructions, we take them out into the field, take them out of the classroom to expose them to engineering principles at work, or mathematical principles at work. So we've taken them to IFLOC, Sugar Estate, We've taken them to Banks DIH, and they've gone to UG. We took them to Tain in Berbice. We also have professionals in STEM come and speak with the kids. So this year we had someone from Irokrama talk about forestry. And some of the kids were just blown away by that, because that's not a field that we generally speak about or speak often enough about, but it's something that is needed in Guyana. Someone from the GDF, the Guyana Defense Force, he spoke with them about, their security and their telecommunications and security department. And how important it is how important math is. So we have these wraparound services, and I believe, and again, we also have kids from outside of Queens College join the kids from Queens College, and it's very successful. What we're hoping to do coming up, and within the next year and a half, is to develop something similar to the Math Institute, but in the creative arts space. This is something we're working on, and stay tuned.
Karen, let's take a quick break.
Absolutely.
We are back with Karen Wharton. Karen, if you could change one thing about the association, what would it be?
If I would change one thing about the association, what would it be? I would basically bless it with an enormously wealthy benefactor.
That'd be good.
And so where we would have a significant endowment, that is something I would change if I could.
Women and women's issues, right? You're a strong advocate of women being self-sufficient and empowered and so on. Why do you think most of us, or many of us, don't get the importance of empowering women, especially men?
I'm not sure, other than I think it's a man's world. And so in a man's world, women are not as important. So perhaps that's the reason.
Let's go to your job environment, a male-dominated environment. You've survived. You're still there, holding your own. For those young ladies that are listening in, what would you say are some principles you've adopted, some attitudes you have adopted, because attitude is everything, that have helped you to help you to not only survive, but to be a sort of force to reckon with, or to be respected. Sorry, in your job environment.
So I think you have to have a strong belief in yourself. I mean, I remember when I was in school, I met a friend, someone I'd gone to school with, and he asked me what I was doing. I said, studying engineering, mechanical engineering, and he was like, why are you going to get your fingers dirty? And so I was like, oh, please, this is not someone that I need to be talking to. So again, you just have to have, for me anyway, I just believe in what it is that I'm doing. And I surround myself with people who support what it is that I'm doing. And that goes on the job as well. You know, there will always be difficult times and rough patches. And I just know that I will fall down, but it's up to me whether I stay down or not. And I always remember the Peter Tosh song, something, pick myself up, dust myself all off, and start all over again. And so when things are not going as well as I'd like, I remember that song. So I think for women, you just have to focus on what it is that you'd like to do, and make alliances. Surround yourself with supportive people. They don't have to necessarily be your best friends, but other women and men who you can call on and to give you some straight talk and advice.
What have you learned about yourself since becoming president of the association?
What have I learned? That I can walk away from fights, maybe.
Not that you can't fight.
Not that I can't fight, but I don't have to fight all fights. Right? There are some battles that I maybe can win by walking away. So I've learned that you know, I can walk away and still be strong. And I've also learned that I have a capacity to be stressed, right? That I can do, because I'm doing the QC stuff while I'm doing my full-time job. I'm trying to get my daughter into college. I have a husband, I have a family. I volunteer with UG, so I have a lot of things.
How you balance all that?
There are 24 hours in a day, and I carve out time, and there's plenty of time to do the things that you want to do when you want to do them.
I have to commend you for the event I attended, this Queen's Scott joint event I attended the other day, this art exhibition. For a well-done event and a well-attended event. And I was really impressed. I met a young lady there. She's a new alumnus at the association. I was introduced to her by Carol Court. And I am curious, what would you like your tenure or so to say to her about hope, about aspiration, or about the association?
I'm glad you asked. So that must have been Jamila.
Yes.
So first, thank you for coming to the event, and thank you for your kind words about it. I was very proud and to be able, and happy to be able to organize that event. For your viewers who may not know, Liminal Space, we had a reception around that, and Liminal Space is the transitional space between what used to be and what is to be. And so Grace Alley, who is a QC alumna, curated a show around about 12 to 15 Guyanese artists, or artists of Guyanese heritage. So for me, having that show was important. Bringing that show to our community, or inviting our community to be a part of the show. We also had Ingrid Griffith perform an excerpt of her play, Demerara Gold. So again, it's about community building. Now, and I was pleased to collaborate with Grace, the QCANY was able to collaborate with Grace, as well as CADI, the Caribbean Cultural Center, African Diaspora Institute. With regard to Jamila, Jamila is this wonderful young lady who came to us a few months ago, and came to us with a fantastic idea to create a mentorship program. So actually to create a college-bound mentorship program.
Yeah, she mentioned that to me.
So we would connect Queens College students, at least initially Queens College students, who are seriously interested in studying in the United States. We would connect them with people who would be able to guide them through the process, up to and including immigration. So one of the things that I'd like to do is ensure that an idea like that, coming from a young lady like that, Jamila, is implemented. And so I want to create an environment. I want my association, the association that I've belonged to since 1993, as you mentioned, to be a place where ideas can grow. And so we're on a mission to develop such a place.
If and another question on message. What would you like your daughter, and perhaps the other young ladies in the family, to get from you, to take away from your successes, your accomplishments? You have a tendency to come up with an idea, and I know this because I know you personally, and you implement them, you succeed. What would you like your daughter and these other young ladies to take away from that?
So I have one daughter and 3 fabulous nieces. And the 4 of them, actually, sorry, 5
Be careful now.
4 fabulous nieces and 1 daughter. So my mom has 5 granddaughters. And these girls are amazing. Amazing. And so I take inspiration from them. Courtney, one of my nieces, she's actually a college counselor at Trinity College in Hartford. And so she's traveling, and she's like barely out of the crib, right? And she's traveling across the United States, speaking with kids and encouraging them to actually apply to go to Trinity. And she is on stage giving speeches, and I look at her, I'm like, wow, I want to be like you when I grow up. Now, with respect to my daughter, she's going to find her own path as well. And I think we have a very good relationship. And I try, and I think she takes some things from me. The things that I do that work for her, she extracts those things. So earlier this year, she went to Cambodia with her school, and she did a visual literacy program there. So a group of her she and her classmates traveled to Cambodia, and they worked with an organization there. So in order to qualify to be a part of that program, there was an interview process. She was interviewed, and of course, I know the teachers, so I spoke with the teacher later, who happens to be a friend of mine, and the teacher says, "Oh my God, your daughter was amazing in the interview." And you know what she said? What did she say? She said that she saw you when you went to Guyana on that This Is Ours program, which is also a visual literacy program. And she saw the effect that program had on me, on the organization, and on the kids. And she was so inspired that she wanted to do the same. So long story short, I think in addition to my speaking with my daughter, speaking with my nieces, I think I would hope that she would take the good in my behavior and she would emulate that. And the not so good, if they're interested, maybe she could take some of those too.
Well, just a quick note. What is your connection to the Guyana Jamaica Friendship Association with my friend Dr. Frank Dembo?
Well, Dr. Frank Dembo is a very dear friend of mine, and we work together, as part of the Queens College Alumni Association. Mm-hmm. And he's very supportive of me and everything that I do, and we talk a lot. When he started his program, actually before he started, when he got to thinking about it, he called me up and he said, "Listen, I'm thinking about doing this," and I'm like, "Thumbs up." So when he was getting ready to actually implement and to create the organization, he called me up. He says, "Listen, I want you to be part of this," and you know. I don't know if you know Frank as well as I know Frank, but when Frank asked me to do something, there's no saying no. Right?
You can be persuasive.
So I'm not as involved as I'd like to be because right now my focus is on Queens College, but the Guyana Jamaica Friendship Association is doing some tremendous work as well. They have adopted a school in Essequibo, the Mashabu Primary School, and they've been sending books and computers and educational tools and really helping out. I think that they've started a feed-in program there as well.
So how could anyone get in touch with this association?
With, I'm not sure, I can't remember the website, but there is a Facebook group, GJFA. If not, inbox me and I'll on Facebook and I'll give them the information.
Karen, if a year from now we are sitting opposite each other having this conversation similar to this, and we are here celebrating what a great year it has been, another year as president of the chapter. What accomplishments do you think we would be celebrating?
We would be celebrating community. We would be celebrating our ability to impact the lives of kids in Guyana, impact the lives of people here in New York. You mentioned, we spoke a few minutes ago about the cultural event a couple nights ago. So that's impacting people here. So in a year from now, I'd like we would be saying, we would be reflecting on more events like that, more opportunities for us here in New York to get together as a community to celebrate Guyana, to celebrate being West Indian, celebrate being here, celebrate being in New York. More opportunities in Guyana to impact students there. I would like to go out even further, go beyond Georgetown. We did go to Anai in 2015, but we're a relatively small organization. We've been asked to do things by by ministers and so on to go into the interior and to do work there. We'd love to do it, but we just don't have the manpower. So building capacity, building community, building finances. These are things that we need to do.
I want to take a very quick break, and I'll say one word and take this break, all right? And that word is Trump.
My best friend. Let's not. Okay.
Trump. So Karen, what is going through your mind right now that I've just mentioned that word?
Let's not spend time talking about him.
Okay.
We could talk about more productive things.
So let's take this break.
Sure.